Step 1 to making your friend like Monster Hunter. Have they said they hate it yet? If not, go do that, then come back here. Pidgey Hunts. Welcome back, Classic Crew, to a special Monster Hunter video. This is one where I wanted to share a little bit more of my perspective as someone who started in the Monster Hunter franchise just a year ago. As someone who didn't like the franchise, got into it, and is now in my fourth Monster Hunter game. And I just want to share some of my perspectives of what I think helps a new player come to the franchise. Now, these are my tips based on my experience and based on my gameplay style, and they're not going to apply to everybody, and everybody has a different way to get into this franchise. But these are some ways that if I were to try to get someone to try the game out who has specifically said they don't like it, this is what I would tell them. And I joke a little bit about first making them say they hate it, but there seems to be a lot of truth in that. If someone needs to hate Monster Hunter before they actually like it. And if they don't hate it, then you don't need to watch this video because you can go and play with them right away. But otherwise, here are 5 tips on how to get your friend who hates Monster Hunter to play Monster Hunter. Now, keep in mind, I do have some contacts that still hate Monster Hunter to this day, and I have failed at converting them still, but so it's not foolproof. All right, step number 1, community. I think community is one of the most important aspects of Monster Hunter, and I hear you guys in the chat right now saying, I started Monster Hunter by myself, I had no friends, I figured it out by myself. And to you, great, fantastic. You got into the franchise by yourself, you are a cut above the rest. For the rest of us slower learners, I really think having a veteran or a community, such as all of you who came to help me get into it, is a very critical component to this game. And you see it in the way that when a player plays this game, it's well known that the player evolves. Your character in the game does not evolve. It's you, the player, that evolves. And just like in anything in life where you get good at something, you eventually want to pass off that knowledge or help someone new start, which is kind of what I'm doing right now. So that whole there's a whole system of kind of like the veteran teaching the noob, which is inherent to the Monster Hunter community. And there's a lot of people who are veterans and have experience that want to help new players come in. So I think if anybody is trying to get into Monster Hunter, having either you, a friend, or anybody who can help them with tips. And if you look at my really early streams when I started Monster Hunter World, I had questions upon questions. Like, there was so much stuff thrown at me. I'm like, how do I do this? How do I do this? And sure, I could have read a lot of the tutorials and absorbed it and let the game kind of take me where it wanted, but I was so overwhelmed and there were specific things I wanted to do. Having an audience, people there to give me tips. Tips like that are things that veterans can really help you. You don't have to, hold your friend and guide them all the way through. But if you have someone that can help you, Monster Hunter has a lot of information, has a lot of nuances, and has a lot of details to go through. And not everybody is the type of player who wants to sit through all of those, who wants to dig through all that information, read all that information, or look up that information online. So having someone that you can text or be like, hey, I just saw like this massive T-Rex thing. What do I do with it? Don't fight it. Go fight the weird yellow iguana first, and then we'll talk about the T-Rex. Number 2, try all the weapons. When I played Monster Hunter Rise, the demo, actually before I played the Monster Hunter Rise demo, I played a little bit of Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, and I played a little bit of Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. And when I say a little bit, I mean less than an hour, so it barely counts. And my mistake is in Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, the very first time I had played it, I went out with the greatsword because that's what I saw in all the marketing, and I thought that was the weapon that we were supposed to use, and I hated it. And it's a very clunky, slow weapon. It's not for everybody. And I think I did the same in 4U. Honestly, I played that one for maybe 20 minutes. I don't remember anything about it. And then there was, in Rise, the demo, I think I tried the longsword, I tried the bow, and I tried the greatsword again, and none of it worked. But when I got into World, one of the best tips the community gave me was go to the pole, beat it up with every weapon. You got 14. Don't leave this place until you've tried all of them. And never in my wildest dream would I have even thought a switch axe of all things would have clicked with me. But I started, beating on this pole. I was like, oh, this feels really good. And that is the key. You have to find something that feels good. And I didn't understand as a newcomer how vastly different every weapon could be in this game. Literally, in Monster Hunter World, there are 14 weapons. That is 14 games right there because they all play that differently. And so if you've only tried 10 of them and it doesn't click, one of those other 4 that you haven't tried might be the way that you like to play the game. So having that patience to sit and try 14 weapons or whatever game you're playing, I really suggest starting with World and Rise. There's a free extra tip that I didn't count in my original 5. Because I find those are the most welcoming to a newcomer. Just try every weapon. Spend a good hour, try them out, see what feels good. Number 3, and again, this is very specific to the New World, fashion hunting. Now, this is something that can sometimes be naturally connected to someone who has played, and once they start understanding the whole mechanic of fashion hunting, yeah, they're already hooked at that point. But someone who might still be on the edge and not really wanting to go, especially with Rise and World, there is so much customization and so much that you can like mix and match. That in itself is really fun. And I think that would attract certain players where you say, look, you can beat up whatever you want out there. You can take their parts and then you can start building stuff. And I really think, well, I saw it personally in Rise, where people were creating characters or costumes from other IPs, franchises. Like that's really cool. And I remember the first time I killed my first Great Jagras and I started building that armor. Just building that armor was fun. I didn't even know at that point how much customization I could do and do the whole fashion hunting. But I think fashion hunting is really a really big appealing part of the game, and it's a huge burden when you play in the old world, at least 3 Ultimate, but the newer games makes it so much more attractive. Even having a friend who's not into the game yet, just having them go through the menu maybe of your save file so that they can see and understand just how much variety that they can like play around with in the newer monster, that might incentivize them to like, oh, I want to go make my own set. I'm going to go hunt. I'm going to go collect things, and I'm going to start building and representing myself how I want to. So that's tip number 3. Tip number 4, understanding the preparation stage of the game. So a lot of people who aren't familiar with Monster Hunter, at least from my perspective, we tend to only, I say we as though I'm still the noob, but I mean, 500 hours in, I have to stop saying I'm a noob at one point. You know, it's easy to see, oh, this game is all about beating up the monster and you don't have a big health bar to watch. But that's just half the game. The other half is preparation. And I think any player who starts, if they're only expecting to, okay, I'm just going to grab my weapon, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to beat this thing to death. It's like, no. There's you have to appreciate that there's a preparation part to the game. And it gets really rewarding when the player understands that the entire game is part preparation and part hunt. And I think, again, if you have that community, that veteran that's helping the friend, that friend can appreciate the game more when it's like, oh, I got to check my items. I got to do my loadouts. I got to make sure I eat. I got to make sure I do this. I got to make sure I learn before I go out on the mission. What level am I going to? What do I need to prepare for that level? That can go a long way to making the game feel a little bit more fleshed out and to help understanding that, hey, there's basically 2 phases to every fight. There's preparation and hunt. And if you don't prepare, your hunt's going to be really hard. And if you over prepare, you can probably do some really cool things in the hunt. So they really go hand in hand. 5, and my final one is let your friend, especially if they're starting to get into it, let them explore. And there's so many ways to really interpret that. Let them explore either a map, let them run around and see what they can do. World is great for that, where they can explore and kick yellow toads and find out what happens there. Or in Rise, there's like ruins and you can climb things. Like, let them explore the maps or let them explore the menu. And there's so many components and little things to discover in Monster Hunter. One of the first things I did after my very first stream of Monster Hunter, where everyone was like, okay, you gotta try the weapons, you gotta go here and all that. The next thing I did on my own time, I needed to, I just wanted to explore the menus, because I was thinking so much about that first stream and all the things that I was learning and seeing. I was like, there's so much here. And I was getting that itch of like, I want to know more. I want to discover more. And so I opened the game and I was trying to like, just go through the menus, just reading it, just taking it all in. I was like, you know what? Let's go stream this live. Maybe this is good content. And 300 people showed up just to watch me look at the menus, because I don't know why, but anyways, that discovery can really hook someone up. And the more that you can foster and encourage it, if they are a curious player, that can really pull them in. So there's a lot of different angles and mechanics in my suggestions, everything from, you know, the fighting style, try the weapons, to fashion hunting, which is more of like a cosmetic thing, to exploring menus, which is, I don't know what that is, a curiosity satisfaction. But the root of all this is that community and veteran. And I think if you don't have that community or that veteran to help you, it's a whole different experience, and it's one that I cannot speak to because it's one that I don't know about. And I think it takes a very special kind of player to get into this franchise without that help. And then that takes you into the next phase of, you know, the late game, where community is what helps you get through the grind faster. Hunting a monster in a community with friends or anybody can make the game a lot more fun and less grindy, and you can have all sorts of weird stories of like someone smacking you into a Safi's supernova, or who knows what else, launching you into... I'm always getting launched by my multiplayer mates, but yeah, it just creates for some really fun stories. Or, you know, you and a buddy were taking on Alatreon, and you were down to like no potions left, the timer was about to run out, and boom, your friend stuck the landing on that last hit and killed it. And then like you have that story between you guys to share and to cherish as you go deeper into Monster Hunter.
No.
So those are my tips. I know you all have a ton of them, so please drop them down below if you've helped a friend get into the franchise and what your tips would be. You don't have to drop 5, just maybe your top 1 tip, or top 3, top 5. And let's give it a little resource for other players to hop into this franchise, especially as we have Sunbreak just around the corner. I'll see you in the next journal video or whatever I do on this channel, and until next time, keep it classy. Subscribe.